little brother has taken control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all connected but separated, misunderstood and so frustrated. A million armies of one have invaded, watching you and watching me. We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. The little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye, we're the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching have taken over. We the people, our little brother, standing by to dethrone each other, watching you and watching me. Paranoid, the lens is our weapon, desensitized in our lust for attention, democratized by our voyeur obsessions, watching you and watching me. Slaves to perfection, don't let them project you as you are, reveal your every flaw. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye, we're the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Stay in line, don't make a mistake. We're watching. We've watched you for so long. We wait for you to fall. We will expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of Spaced Out Radio or Spaced Out Radio Limited is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised. Are you experienced?
Stop right there!
From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you, listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on iTunes and TuneIn. Follow Dave on Twitter at spacedoutradio.com, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Game on! Game on! Game on!
Dave, oh Dave, are you playing with Bigfoot and aliens again?
The password is...
Alright.
Okay, seriously, what's with the pointies?
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio. Mr. Bumblefoot, Dave is ready for liftoff.
Seriously, Dave? Really?
Chloe. Bye-bye. Love you. Bye-bye.
Captain, take your seat on my left. It's time for takeoff.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, start, 2, 1, boost ignition, and liftoff.
Just to be there with you, and I still trip over my feet, and my heart still skips a beat. I'm such a lucky guy, 'cause after all this time, it's like the deeper I go, the deeper I fall. The deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening and welcome to Space Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, and it's good to have you along for the ride wherever you are on this great planet we like to call Earth. Yes, we are live right here in Uncle Jimbo's cabin, right here in the Great White North. If you're listening in on this Friday night, early Saturday morning, if you're on the East Coast, Friday afternoon, if you make that Saturday afternoon, if you are in Australia, like Aussie Matt and Aussie Rob already in the chat room. Good to have you along with us. Thank you so much for getting in here on time. Let us welcome in everyone listening in at spacedoutradio.com, on Spreaker, on the United Public Radio Network, Radio Renegade Talk Radio, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and of course on Revolution Radio. We do this thing every night of the week as we rock in and out of every show thanks to our resident guitar god, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy. Yes, Bumblefoot is the official sound of SOR, and we love having him here. If you want to follow me on social media, you can do so on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download this show and others on iTunes. And, of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. Hey, if you want to take part in this show, this is what you need to do. You need to go into one of our chat rooms, either on Revolution Radio, on Spreaker, on the UPRN chat room, or on our Facebook chat room, the SOR Space Travelers Club, or if you're on Twitter, head on over to hashtag Spaced Out Radio. We'll get into your questions and comments in there as well. Now, I do want to remind everybody, one of my 2 computers is down right now. I don't know. I just did a big virus scan the other day, but my goodness, the internet is not working on this computer. It's slower than 1995 Windows program right now. So I'm battling with that, doing another virus scan, so bear with me if I don't get to your questions right away in a couple of chat rooms, namely the Space Travelers and Revolution Radio, because that's the computer I run it on. The SOR Space Travelers Club, I do have you up on my other monitor, but I'm going to have to multitask here, so you got to bear with me. I appreciate that. Hey, if you haven't signed up for the SOR Space Travelers Club, it's $5 a month. The cutoff was 5 minutes ago. You could not get into this month's draw, but you could get into February's draw now. $5 a month. We're going to give you access to a special posting section on our website. We're going to give you some other great swag and so much more. Hey, we want to give back to you, the valued listeners, so make sure you sign up today if you haven't already. While on our website, you can read up on my latest blog. Check out Eric Markham's SOR Spacewire for your latest and weird news. And if you've had a sighting you just can't explain, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Researcher Mike Schmidt will get to it ASAP. If you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. We want to welcome in everyone listening live in Sin City. We are the nighttime show of Las Vegas on Renegade Talk Radio. And of course, if you're listening live in New Orleans on 107.7 FM, the United Public Radio Network, thank you for allowing us into your night. And of course, there are 160 countries around the world where Spaced Out Radio is spread to. We welcome all of you in as well. Hey, it's the final Friday of the month, which means it's time once again for the SOR Paranormal Round Table. It's a time where after pushing hard through the month of January, I bring in some close friends. Most of them have really good beards, at least those who can grow them. Joey. And, of course, we talk about the month that was. We discuss and debate the topics of the month, and your participation is wanted as well. We will be giving away another door prize as we do the final Friday of the month, so make sure you stick around for the beginning of hour number 3 at least, because that's when we're going to get into the prize draw. So, let's welcome in tonight's panel. From Spaced Out Weekend, we have James Tyson. From S4 with E Squared and Forest Moon Paranormal, we have Eric Cooper. And from Spaced Out Radio, we have Everett Thiemer and Eric Markham. And last but not least, our resident gout flare himself, Joseph Francis Aquilino from the WIRN network. Don't worry about him. He'll be okay. He is a New York Mets fan. So we do, allow him a little bit of slack. Not much, but that's it. Gentlemen, we got an all-male panel tonight. Usually we try and get some women in here to give us some actual real answers, but we're stuck with you. How you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing good, Dave. Doing good.
Good. Now, Joey, you're the only one without a beard here.
That's right. That's right.
You know, why haven't you manned up in Staten Island? And I realize, you know what? Joey and I were on Skype a little while ago, a couple weeks ago. And he showed me the only tree in Staten Island, and it was in his neighbor's backyard, and this thing already looked half dead.
It's true. It's true. Yep, and Bigfoot couldn't even get behind it if he wanted to.
No. This thing was thinner than Twiggy the model. Anyways.
That's true. That's true. And by the way, Dave, I shaved off my beard when the United States beat Canada in Canada for the Juniors Championship.
You would? Yes. Go Team USA. I am so proud of the American hockey team for beating Team Canada at the World Juniors, because your guys deserved gold. You deserved gold.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
apparently I'm a Rangers fan now, too. So go New York Rangers for the Stanley Cup. Joe, before we get started, we need a spritz. Get the cologne. We need it.
Sure.
Joey always has to smell good for a show, so we need a spritz.
That's right. Just for you, Dave. Just for you, pal. We have a special one tonight. It's called Burberry. I'm telling you, this smells great, this stuff. Here we go,
Nice.
Dave. Here it is. Here it is. Oh, man, there it is. Oh, it smells great, Dave. It smells great.
Oh, nice. Oh, look at that. You're making the boys cough. They're breathing it in. And the ladies are oogling all around you now. It's all good. It's all good. Anyways, we have a wonderful show for our audience tonight as we start to kick things off. I think I'm actually finally over that cold. I've had a rough week. You know, I had one of those throat and chest colds where, you know, it just felt like no matter how much water or tea or anything warm that I put down my throat, it just was not helping at all. But I think we got it all covered up now, and I'm glad to finally get things going. So what we're doing here is we changed up the round table a little bit. And normally in the past, when we started the round table, the guests didn't know their questions, the questions that I was going to ask. Well, that just wasn't working for me anymore, so I decided to change things up. Now what we're doing is a little bit different format. Everybody on the panel has come up with 3 questions, so we're going to be able to debate more, we're going to be able to chat about it more, and if there's a good conversation going, I'm not going to cut it off like I did in the past. We're going to go through it, and if we miss some questions that we've written down, we do. Your participation in the chat rooms and on Twitter is, of course, necessary to make this show go well, so I hope you guys continue to do what you do, because that's what makes the show quite fun. And don't be afraid to fire them away. And don't forget, listeners, at the top of the hour number 3, we will be giving away the SOR prize of the month for our Space Traveler of the Month. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Question number 1 of the night. This one's going to be one of mine here, if I can find it, because in our chat room, Joey likes to back everything up with the big blue thumbs and yeah, his New York accent going crazy. We've all heard it. We've all heard it. So, bear with me here. My first question of the night, and we're going to start things off here with you, Mr. James Tyson, because you're that guy. And of course,
okay.
You sound so happy and thrilled to be here.
I am. I'm actually very happy to be anywhere, and this is one of my favorite places to be. So, nice. Adding those two things together, throw a question at me, and I'll crater again, like I usually do when you ask me questions about stuff I have no idea.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay,
absolutely.
First question of the night. There's been a lot of talk, and I'm not trying to get politicized here, but we've talked a lot on this show over the last year and a bit about fake news. Now, the current president of the United States has gone pretty hardcore on the fake news. Hillary went hard on the fake news. Like I said, this is not a political topic. In the paranormal field, we see a lot of fake news. We see a lot of fear-mongering. We see a lot of people chatting up about stories and sharing stories of stories that don't exist. Okay? And it's getting ridiculous and out of line. And the only people that it is hurting is you, the public listener, because you don't know where you're getting your news from anymore. And it's getting ridiculous. It really is. So, James.
Yes, sir?
The question of the night, question number 1 is, at what point does the public need to start holding news outlets, whether they're online, whether television, newspapers, radio, when do they have to start holding these outlets accountable, and how, in your opinion, should they do that?
Well, this goes back to stuff we've always done, not only online, but in any type of... hold on. Look at the wolves at the door here. We've got...
why isn't Kirby in with you?
Ryan outside. Kirby, you want to take this? No. Yeah, pressure. Under pressure, he cracks. When we were kids, and we were playing on a sports team or something, and the local newspaper want to know the highlights of the game, and you'd send John Smith scored 3 goals. I used to coach a women's lacrosse team. It sounds kind of weird, but we were actually a pretty skookum team. We traveled across Canada into the U.S., became a part of the Olympic team. Anyway, long story, but we would submit stuff to the local paper. These 3 people scored these goals, and we beat this team. How friggin' hard is that to write down? We've actually, how hard is it to write down? How hard is it to take it from my hand, already written down, take it over and actually add it to the newspaper? Not one time in 5 years was it correct.
Really?
5 years, weekly paper, not once was that correct. So growing up, I started thinking, every time our sports team handed something to the newspaper, it was always screwed up. So how many other stories in this newspaper, which may have 30, 40, 50 stories in it, if they always screwed up the ones we handed in, how accurate were all those other ones? So I always questioned it. Always. And as a policeman, and I worked in small towns where you kind of set up, this is what we did last week, and these are the guys who, places got broken into, and these are the guys who got arrested, and whatever, always screwed up. And I'm looking at it going, my God. Or else they would take a small portion of it, go talk to the neighbor, and they'd make a great big sensational story about it, and it was completely wrong. And I'm looking at it going, how does the consumer cut through this crap? Unless you've actually been involved with passing a story on to a news outlet and then watching what they do with it, you wouldn't understand how screwed these things up. And this, I'm not talking about some guy in his parents' basement putting out weird paranormal and conspiratorial information based on 5 other different blogs. I'm talking about these are people who get paid for doing this. And, how does that happen? So I've always taken news with a grain of salt, unless I'm actually involved in it. And then I can actually look it up myself and go, oh, yeah, that's the true story, but that isn't. Now, you've got the paranormal. You've got the paranormal fad, which has been going on for a while. You've got paranormal, very, very, very popular television shows that are putting out crap. They're making crap up. I'm being possessed. And, the director has to step in and say, okay, let's retake the possession because it didn't look good. It's like, really? Here we got this guy that everybody follows around, thinks he's the God's gift to ghosting, and he's a really bad actor. And it's just fed out there, and unfortunately it makes somebody who actually does come forward and saying, hey, you know what? This is me having lunch with a Bigfoot. And you're going, yeah, right. You just stand over there with the other people who are making up ghost stuff. Am I ranting, Dave? I'm not really sure.
You're kind of getting there. I was looking at the clock. I think that was a
thanks everybody for showing up. That was our show.
14-minute answer. But you bring up some very good points. And on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio, Eric brings up a good point. He says, make them give their sources whenever possible so the public can look it up. I agree with that, Eric. But at times, what we have to understand is the media cannot give up their sources. Okay? If you get something, let's say, from a raped woman, proven that she's raped, okay, you don't want to give her up. You don't want to give up something like that. And that's an extreme example, I know, but I've seen that happen in a newsroom personally. Okay, there are certain sources you cannot give up. But if it's a political story, absolutely. The public has a right to know. Those sources need to come out. And, let's get to you, Everett, as a paranormal journalist. How do you think that people should be able to hold the media accountable? Because right now, it's out of control.
I think the only way they can hold any media accountable is basically if they're seeing an outlet that's putting out fake news or distorted news, the only thing they can really do is ban or avoid or not turn to that outlet, and eventually they'll notice, their readership, their viewership decline, and that affects their bottom line. And ultimately, all of these fake news stories are simply clickbait. They're designed to get clicks and sell advertising. They're not journalism. They're just little games that different people play to make advertising money. So if you don't go to the websites, you don't watch the videos, eventually it's going to go away.
I fully agree. And you know what? Getting back to Eric D at hashtag Spaced Out Radio on Twitter, he's also in the Spreaker chat room. He brings up an extremely good point here. He says, I was living by New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina. And we are live in New Orleans, so people can pretty much understand. If you're listening in New Orleans, you'll get exactly what we're talking about. This is what Eric said. He goes, so freaking much of the news was either BS or it was not even reported. After that, he lost all faith in the job of the media. And you can't blame someone like that when they see the hyperbole that is going on. Would you agree with that, Everett, pardon me.
Yeah, I would. The problem is that you have to be able to turn somewhere. You have to find a reliable source. But that means that people have to create or be or provide reliable sources for news. In the last few weeks here, it's sometimes hard to tell what's fake news and what's real news with some of the stories that have, come out, and it can be tough. But real news, reliable news sources have to come out and continue to be reliable.
Mm-hmm. Francis, what's your opinion on this?
Well, the media has been propaganda for decades and even centuries now. Even back in the Civil War times, the newspapers printed garbage, and so on and so forth. So it came in different forms, so it's no different now, and the way to curb it is the people need to stop, watching it, or find out what, is bad news or fake news. And most of our news sources, unfortunately, are fake. I feel that most of them are, including Fox is getting banned now, too. I think they're all really on the outs, We have to band together as people who watch the news and say, hey, guess what? You're dishing out fake news? Guess what? We are not going to give you ratings. We're not even going to put on your channel. We're not even going to bother putting on the channel to watch the news. Where you go for news, and I'll answer that question, where you go for news now is live streaming. Where you go for news now is social media. And you go to, sources like Twitter and Facebook, but even Facebook is starting to dish out fake news. Look at the trending topics on Facebook, Well, who cut their hair today, or who got divorced today? Who cares? But if you go to Twitter, Twitter is probably your best bet. And like I always say, even if you hate him or you love him, Donald Trump has, Twitter. Go find out what he's doing, because that's where he is going to be transparent. He's not going to be transparent on the mainstream media. So.
Yes, because he's been so transparent in his first few days. But that's another topic. Everett, I already went to you. By the way, before I bring in Eric Cooper on this topic, I do want to say to one of our listeners in the Spaced Out Radio SOR Space Travelers Club, Gloria, you beautiful lady, happy birthday to you. Can we get a round of applause for Gloria on her birthday today? Way to go, Gloria.
Author.
You did it.
Author.
Bravo. Happy birthday. Coop, let's get your take on the media. What do you think? What do you think? Not so much the media, but what do you think the public should do to hold the media accountable?
Boycott. In Florida Spoon Paranormal, if I find out it's a crap news source, all hoax, it's not allowed. I delete it automatically, and it's in the rules. There's 3 different news sources that are not allowed in our group. But when it comes to the public, boycott and let them know we don't listen to you. One of the news sources I've boycotted got angry. They actually threatened our group to slander and whatnot because they're mad because we call them out. But boycott them because their ratings are what make their livelihood. And just let them know you're not going to put up with it. As far as finding real news sources, I'm with Joseph. Live stream, social media. That's where I get most of my news anyway, is my friends' news feeds. And yeah, I agree, it's not always accurate, but it's people that are right there. So again, I look out my back window, I talk to friends that are actually where the news is. And that's the way to go anymore, because there is no accurate news source anymore.
Mm-hmm. I want to tell you something here. Okay, and before I get Eric Markham's take on this, because he's from the SOR Space Wire, our news outlet, and I think it's important to get the news out, I want to give you an example of what it was like. My first radio station that I worked at. I came out of college. I got hired in October of 1998 at a little station on Vancouver Island in a beautiful town called Parksville. And really, if you ever get to Vancouver Island, head north to Parksville. It's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. My studio window had a view over the ocean. It was fantastic, especially if there was a lightning storm over the ocean. That's just an amazing sight. Long story short, our salespeople at this dinky little station were making well over $120,000 to $140,000 a year. I was hired at a starting wage of $19,900, which in Canada is $2,000 below the poverty level, and a single mother on welfare with 2 children was making $200 more a month than I was with a college education. That's not her fault. I'm just showing you the inconsistency of things happening. So when you see the media and these salespeople making money from this advertisement, and then you see the product, which is your local news anchor, your local radio host, your local DJ, they're making anywhere, unless it's a morning show in a big-time city, but if you live in a small city, that person is probably making, at the high end, $30,000 to $40,000 a year. At the low end, minimum wage, whatever your minimum wage in your province or your state is. That's how ugly it can be. So, where do you think a lot of these outlets are going to focus on? They're focusing on the money. Markham, you got the last say on this one.
Well, I tell you what, it's especially if you're trying to find paranormal news, it is very difficult to vet. Pretty much, if there's not at least 2 or 3 other reputable outlets talking about the same thing, I'm not probably going to write about it or put it on our site, because I don't want to add to the problem. I don't think there's any way short of not buying the product, hitting them in the pot, hitting them in the purse is the only way any of that's ever going to, come to a screeching halt. Mm-hmm. And I would say it's going to take constant vigilance, because they've done it before, they'll do it again, and once everybody starts buying the cookies and the cheese and whatever else they're hawking, they'll go right back to it, because it's easier to make crap up. I could do 20 stories a day if I wanted to just make it up and trust that nobody was ever going to look into it. Mm-hmm. And I just don't think, it's very difficult.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get to the next question. Eric Cooper, let's fire up one of yours.
All right. At what point do those with a need-to-know security clearance have an obligation to violate their clearance when it comes to public safety within government secrecy?
Boy, let's not take it easy on us here.
I'm saving my recreational question for last.
Ah, I see.
But here's my take on that real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking MK Ultra when I think of those things. All the people, there's people that died within mind control, within and the government let it happen, and the government used their security clearances to keep it quiet. Experimentation on any human against their knowledge that's going to be at risk of life, to me, is hands down. Somebody should have come out a long time ago and shut that crap down.
Mm-hmm. Eric Markham, why don't you get started on that one?
Well, I used to have a clearance, not, so high it was nosebleed level, but I had a secret clearance on the Nimitz because I used to have to go through flag intel and work on the phones and whatever communications gear there was. That's a toughie because I guess if you see something that is so morally reprehensible that you can't not report it. I mean, if it's just something so egregious, I would say at that point, if you can live with yourself by not disclosing it, live with yourself. If it's something that's so horrible that you're going to be haunted the rest of your life, no. I think that's when you have to be a whistleblower.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be an internal thing. It's going to be different for everybody.
I guess at one point, can I just comment on that if you don't mind?
Yeah.
If you say whistleblower, though, we just saw President Obama give clemency to Chelsea Manning. Where was that for Edward Snowden? Where was that right? Where was that for Julian Assange?
Well, that's because Chelsea Manning is... I think in this case it's one of those... God, I don't know how to say this without being offensive. If Chelsea Manning had stayed whatever her original name had been stayed a man, you would have probably never heard of him again. I think because he engineered a publicity stunt or a lifestyle change that put him in a very highly visible minority is the only reason, political capital. Obama's not going to retire and kick his feet up. He's going to be doing some kind of lobby where he's going to be, he's going to be out there somewhere, and he's going to want a certain segment of the population behind him, and I think that's the only reason he did it. If Julian Assange had been putting out anti-Trump, anti-Republican, anti-conservative, had he been playing on the other side of the fence, I'm sure he'd have been, I'm pretty sure he'd have been pardoned by now too. With Snowden, I have been looking into that story, and there is so much chaff. I'm not sure what the guy actually did or did not do, but my feeling there is you don't mess with the NSA and expect to come out on top. In fact, the fact that he is still alive kind of surprises me.
Yes,
I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the news that he was found dead in his shower, or some accident took,
suicide by 2 bullets in the back of his head.
Yeah, brain hemorrhage.
All right, let's move it on here. James Tyson, I would like to get your opinion on this.
I spent a long time with well, I guess layman's terms is a top secret clearance. The average is a secret, but because of what I was exposed to, I was dealing with a lot of top secret stuff, which would cross over to military. Completely different set of policies, set of rules. I could, and this came right down actually to if somebody stuck a microphone in my face and asked me what was going on, I could tell them what was going on as long as it was not illegal, immoral, unethical, or expose an ongoing investigation. Those are the 4 things you had to go by. But the term immoral, that is a very, very broad term. And who morals is it? So that always came down is I wasn't immoral, or I was assigned to do something. I felt it was immoral to do it. Therefore, I was going to stop. Okay, fine. That was my opinion on it. Somebody across the country who sent it down the food chain says, well, it's not. Well, that argument is always in the past tense. You're always going to have that after you don't do something. It reminds me in December, and I can't remember the name of the place. It was a really cool little name. But for those reasons, illegal, unethical, and immoral behavior, the police force quit. It was a town in the U.S. It's because what they were being asked to do, and they were being asked to do it by the town council. Now, how this works is you've got your mayor, you've got a town council. They're all elected to represent the citizens. That town council tells the police to do something, and you kind of look at it and think, okay, can we do this? Well, they were being asked to do things that were illegal, unethical, and immoral. So they all walked off the job. Good for them. Bunker Hill. Yeah, it was a Bunker Hill police force. I knew it had a cool name. But, they went off the job, I think, before Christmas. Because that is what you're supposed to do. If you're sworn to protect the citizens, between you and the citizens are usually somebody who's pulling the strings. You have to have the out. You have to have the capability to look at the person pulling the strings and say, nope, sorry, we're not going to do it. And if somebody walks out and says, if there's some lunatic who finds themselves in charge of, becomes the mayor or, governor and decides he's going to make an off-the-cuff opinion on something and he's going to send in the troops, call out the National Guard or ask for the National Guard, you've got to have some backstops to say, look, buddy, you've lost it. And if we don't let people come out and cover their ass when you assign them something and they back away from it, then you're not really doing a service to the people that we're actually paying your wage.
Right. Everett, your call on this.
If you have a top secret or a high security clearance, I don't think that you're ever legally obligated to whistleblow, release anything. I think you have to look at, your own set of morals and the situation and look at society. There are a lot of people who have released or claim to have released information, and they're ridiculed, and they're blackballed, and they're made fun of. It doesn't mean the information is right or wrong, but before you release something, you really have to look at your own morals and kind of decide, what you believe. If it's something that's really reprehensible, and even if the world isn't going to believe it, if you want to stand by your words, then you're certainly, able to or should release the information and stand by them, but be prepared for the consequences, whether they be legal, social. But I don't think that anybody is ever really legally obligated to release anything if they have a clearance.
James, Mario in the chat room wants to know what you meant by Bunker Hill Police Department. What did they do?
You know, I just remember the story from last month. I don't recall the details. If you Google Bunker Hill Police quitting, you'll probably get the details. I am not in a position. Actually, I can whip it up right now. Here, hold on. Give me a second. Yeah, it was an order given, and I'm stalling right now until I can my Google net kicks in, because it's real, because I read it online. What happened was the town council asked them to do something. Let's see, it's complicated. It's not a 1 minute answer, Dave. But
while you're finding that story, I'm going to get to a question from Joe in the SOR Space Travelers Club. He is saying, question for the panel: when do you think they will tell the new president about space aliens? Goatman, do you think that President Trump already knows about alien contact?
I think so. I think every president that comes in is probably briefed on it, in some capacity, but of course they don't want to let it out because, there might be some sort of mass hysteria. But I think when it comes down to the president, I think they're definitely briefed on everything going on in the country, and to answer Eric's question, they need to be more transparent. I think, transparency is very important, but we don't want to, cause mass hysteria in the case of UFOs, telling everybody, oh yeah, there's UFOs, and everybody goes crazy in a very confused country that we are anyway, so there you go. I that's what I think about that, so.
I don't think Donald Trump knows. He's probably been approached about it. I don't think he knows, because right now I don't think he cares. He's too worried about ruining women's rights around the world. But that's another topic indeed that we can get into as we keep this unpolitical. But I really honestly believe that he really couldn't give two cares about what's up there, because he's so focused on his own initiative right now that anything from space really wouldn't even cross his mind. In fact, wouldn't surprise me if he even told his team who are bringing this information forward that he probably doesn't believe it, and if so, we'll just build a wall over top of America, so that way the illegal aliens cannot get in.
But most of them fly in on visas and overstay.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That if there's a wall over top of the United States, we don't have to worry about that.
They'll never get through the chemtrails. Hey, Dave, on your answer there for the fellow on Twitter, they were been told. I guess there's a lawsuit going on. It's Bunker Hill's in Indiana. There was an open door law, and the city council is denying they violated the law by sending police. And again, I'd have to research that law to find out exactly what it is. I'm reading basically a thumbnail sketch of what it is they were doing. There was some issues with not providing the police with soft body armor, which is a big foreboding in the 21st century here, and I could see why. There was a bunch of budget cuts, and I think they were just nickel and diming the police. Obviously, it's a small town. I think there was only about 7 or 8 guys involved in it, and they just found that they were cutting too many corners and walked off the job.
Let's get back to... Go ahead.
And just so you guys know, as a supervisor of police resources, if I had to send one of my guys in to do something, I had to be conscious under federal law, federal health and safety rules, that I'm not putting him in a position to hurt himself. So I'm responsible for him. I'm also responsible for his mental well-being. And these are things you cannot blatantly send somebody in and say, okay, I want you to go use a fire hose and tear gas on a whole bunch of First Nations people praying about water. If I ordered one of my guys to do that, they'd all turn around at me and say, yeah, you first. Yeah, because there's no way any of my guys would do that. Top secret or not, top secret basically only knows you have really means you have access to information that other people don't have access to until the defecation hits the rotary oscillator, and then it'll go downhill. It's not some secret spy thing, really. Well, in some countries it might be.
But it's fun to think that.
Yeah.
It's fun to think that. Eric Cooper, your opinion on whether or not Trump knows about extraterrestrials since he's been in the White House?
I agree with everyone else. I don't think he gives a darn. I think he's more wrapped up in his own agenda. And honestly, I think if he did, he'd be the first one to say it. If anything, for shock factor. Look what he's tweeting now. So if he did know, we would know. So on that, I don't think he knows. I don't think they would trust him with that kind of information, to be honest with you.
I don't think they would trust him either.
I don't think they trust him with the bathroom key.
I think if there isn't a shadow government now, Trump is providing the perfect opportunity for one to be created, because there are a lot of agencies that probably have information that they don't want him to know because he's such a loose cannon. They don't want their secret information all of a sudden popping up on Twitter. And he seems to have a habit of doing things like that on Twitter. So I can imagine that there are a lot of agencies that don't really want to communicate too much to him.
I would agree with that. I would totally agree with that. It's a time of paranoia until everything settles down and he gets settled into the seat. I mean, it is roughshod right now, and when it comes to extraterrestrials, do we really want to give those type of secrets to someone who is at some points acting like a child in the White House, but in other points is doing the job that he has been elected to do, and that is represent the American people and the best interests of America? So I strongly believe that, he's not even concerned about anything that could be going on up in space when he is worried about what's going on land. Eric Markham, you got the final say on Joe's question in the SOR Space Travelers, which is, when do you think they will tell Mr. Trump, or President Trump, pardon me, about space aliens?
I've sort of got the impression he could care less. I think he is so focused on the job, getting things straightened out, or what he conceives of as straightened out, that unless they land in his backyard, I don't think it's something he even thinks about. I can imagine him being said, "Hey, there's such a thing as ETs," and get their visas and make them have pass. I just don't think it's something that's high up on his priority list.
Well, on that note, at least he's become a good fan on Twitter. He's good with his social media, but somebody needs to red pen him a little bit, because I do follow him, and I tell you, I just want to get in there and retype that damn thing so bad. But that's just who he is. That's who he is. Let's move on to the next topic here. Joey, your question.
Yeah, I've always been into, like curses and like the unknown. So my first question is, do you believe Atlantis exists, and where do you think it is located?
Oh, you missed our show last week, didn't you?
I did.
His gout was flaring. He couldn't make it that night. Stiff toe.
Unfortunately, we have that information. It was given to Elizabeth Anglin, but it was in some convoluted mathematical friggin' thing. Anyway, it was in the Pacific Ocean, not the Atlantic, and we got the actual location for it and the whole bit. So it did exist, as did an island off of just south of Ireland and off the coast of England, and a few other ones that were no longer floating around. A bunch in the Mediterranean, just because of the area it is. They all kind of went for a poop. But Atlantis was an evolved group of people, not aliens, an evolved group of humans and that island dropped. So, when I talk to an alien via Joanna, I believe what he says, because that alien also knew a whole bunch of stuff that there's no way it was going to be able to know. So, about people. So, that's my litmus test for talking to an alien, which is funny because I didn't know I'd be talking to an alien 2 years ago.
Until you met me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Speaking of which, James, I gotta tell you something.
Yes.
Remember the incident with the alien at my window?
Yep.
Well, that night we had Harvey Kraft on, and I hadn't talked to him since that night, and he contacted me on LinkedIn the other day or a couple weeks ago, and is like, he goes, I want to come back on the show. I've been writing about aliens. He goes, ever since that night, I cannot get that experience that I heard from you out of my head. So he's been writing about aliens now.
That's cool.
That is kind of cool. That is kind of cool. All right, Goatman, your question about Atlantis. I'm going to say that it was real. I honestly believe that there has to be something to it. I'm still baffled as to why we can't find it. I believe that, the flood with Noah's Ark, if you want to get biblical, I think that's where it was wiped out. And I don't know how technologically advanced they were. Maybe they had what we had, and, when God decided to give the earth a cleansing, everything got wiped out, including their iPhones and their iPads. But where it is today, I have no clue. I mean, you hear stories that it's still in the Mediterranean. You hear that it's now down in, Antarctica is actually frozen over Atlantis. There's that theory now. There's the theory that it's in the Bermuda Triangle or the Caribbean or somewhere along those lines. I mean, everybody has an Atlantis story if you're a researcher. I'm sure Mother Earth knows exactly where she is. But I'll guarantee this, definitely she's under some water. Mm-hmm. Everett, your call.
Of all the things I don't know much about, this is on the top of that list. I think there are a lot of places that could possibly be. There's a lot of evidence of different cities, civilizations that have, sunk, or as the water levels have changed and risen, have become underwater. But I couldn't even hazard a guess on which one could be Atlantis. I believe it probably existed in some form, but I wouldn't even know where to say it was, because like you had said, there are so many different theories and ideas out there, and they're finding more and more of these sites that appear to be some sort of towns or villages that are now underwater. So I wouldn't say it was any one of them, definitely. It could be any of them.
Yeah. Actually, Dave, there was we just to clarify this, we asked Rob, the alien, was there an Atlantis and where was it? And it was indicated in the Pacific. Now, there is data, or there is old literature saying that there was a continent called Mu, or Mir. It was MU. And it's in the Pacific.
Mu.
Basically, Mu. And Atlantis was a similar big chunk fitting off of the Atlantic. But we never got to the Atlantic part. It was always being pointed to this great big chunk in the Pacific that dropped about 12,000 years ago.
Well, isn't there a big site off of Japan now that they've discovered that looks like a sunken city?
Yeah, and this continent would be darn close, because it's kind of, if you went straight down from the tip of the Baja Peninsula straight south, you would get a tip of this continent, and if you went down from Japan straight south, you would get the other tip, the westward tip of it. It was huge.
Mm-hmm. Eric Cooper, we got about 2.5 minutes for an answer here, so make sure your beard hair doesn't get involved in this one.
No, Atlantis. I believe it does exist, or it did exist. I've always believed it was in a different dimension because stories and research I've heard and done, it went up. It did not sink. I'm intrigued by James' story, though. I like Great Coordinates, and I'll see if Robert McDonald wants to go into the Pacific and check it out.
Yeah, let me get the details from Joanna, because she was going to do the math. Or not Joanna, Elizabeth, because she was going to do the math on it and locate it.
Because Robert McDonald is the ghost ship hunter, and that's what he does. He goes in the ocean and looks for sunken ships, and Atlantis would definitely pique his interest. So we can have that checked out.
That and some gold. Get him some good
we need some Space Out Radio gold here.
Yeah, and then we'll give it away.
Markham, you got the final word on this one, buddy.
Not sure if I really believe that Atlantis existed. I'm open to it,
here
but I
comes
think
a James
it's more.
Tyson answer.
I just think it's not a. There's some scholars that think it was more or less a moral tale more than a true place. And Greek myth and everything is full of that. Don't get too big for your britches, or the gods will smack you down type of. Story. Just about all the great myths are, and then they got too good and the gods smacked them down. So I'm not convinced on Atlantis. In fact, I think somebody said it was actually the island of Minos, that they just happened to have a different culture and seemed to be a little more civilized than the rest of the Mediterranean at that time.
All right,
so
Jeff. Go ahead.
That's where I land. That's where I fall on Atlantis. I'd love for them to find it and be proven wrong, but I don't think that's something I got to worry about.
Doesn't your beard have a different opinion?
Oh, my beard wants to go vacationing in Atlantis, but I told it no.
All right, on that note, we're going to hop out for our first break of the night. The SOR Round Table happens the final Friday of every month. We're also 1 hour away from our prize draw for the SOR Space Travelers, so make sure you stay tuned. We'll be right back on Spaced Out Radio.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
Looking for news beyond the mainstream news? Head to spacedoutradio.com and check out the SOR Spacewire. This is Spaced Out Radio's Eric Markham, news director for the SOR Spacewire. Daily, I will bring you intriguing stories and outlandish reports from what's going on around the world. UFO sightings, paranormal activity, conspiracies, alternative health, and so much more. And if you have news, email me at news@spacedoutradio.com.
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Had a run-in with ghosts, maybe Bigfoot, or seen lights in the sky? Hi, I'm Mike Schmidt from the SOR Sightlines. I'm here to investigate your sighting. Head to spacedoutradio.com and fill out a report on the Sightlines. All your information is 100% confidential, and I will help you figure out what you've been seeing. File your report, and let's find out the answers together.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Have Have you got your Cosmic Passport? If you need one, tune in to Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Weekend. This is Elizabeth Anglin, ET experiencer, spirit medium, and host of Cosmic Passport. Each weekend I'll be bringing you interviews and support from other paranormal experiencers, and the best in intuitive spiritual guidance from across the globe. It's all happening starting at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, midnight Eastern, on spacedoutradio.com.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest, from Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Oh, there's only one way to rock. Loud and proud. In high definition. Radio 702 rocks. Las Vegas.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness, you can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up, enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the second hour of Space Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you with us. Tomorrow night on Sunday, while I am off finding my Zen and Chi in the wilderness of British Columbia, Uncle Jimbo, James Tyson, and Elizabeth Anglin will be in Uncle Jimbo's cabin right here for Spaced Out Weekend, starting 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. Make sure you tune us in. Remember, you can listen in on the United Public Radio Network, live on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. Good to have you with us on a nightly basis. You could also listen in live if you're in Las Vegas. Yes, Sin City, the home of Renegade Talk Radio. We're glad to be your nighttime show. And of course, if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. It's thylophagyst. It's thyophagist. It's thyophagist. ICHTHYOPAH or PHAGIST. It's thyophagist. Maybe that's it. I don't know. He had to end the week. He'd been getting me all week, and he had to go there. He just had to go there. Thank you, Bill, for setting the SOR Space Travelers password for the night. He does it each and every night on this show. Now, if you want to follow me on social media, you can do so on Twitter, at Spaced Out Radio. Also use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Tripp made a comment here. He goes, Dave, take a shot before trying the password. I do every time! Damn it, I do it every time. Every time. Anyways. Ew. No, I don't eat fish. So, I don't eat fish. So, anyways, let's move on. Follow us at hashtag Spaced Out Radio on Twitter. Make sure you give our Facebook page a like if you haven't already at Spaced Out Radio Show. You can tune us in on TuneIn, download this show and others, and our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of information for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. We welcome back the panel of Spaced Out Radio, Eric Markham and Everett Thiemer from the SOR team, from Spaced Out Weekend, James Tyson, from E Squared, S4 with E Squared, and Forest Moon Paranormal, Eric Cooper, and of course, last but definitely not the least, the man who can't grow a beard, so he shaves his 2 chin hairs, Joseph Francis Aquilino from the WIRN Network. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Good to have you with us.
Happy to be here, Dave. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Always fun at Roundtable.
Absolutely. Let's have another good time here. Everett, we'd love to hear one of your questions.
Okay, well, let's go back to the government a little bit. And is any government, whether, obligated to release information that takes place at secret bases, whether it's Area 51 or Pine Gap, do they have an obligation to release what they're doing there?
No.
Why is that, James?
I'm answering on behalf of my government, but your government, there are some stuff under the 10th Amendment in the Constitution to do with state governments and what they can and cannot do in regards to some military activity and things like that. So if it's they're breaching the Constitution Act of your country, then that could be an issue. But I don't see, if it's government, we'll call it, let's blanket and say it's all federal government land. The federal government owns the land, and it believes through some way it's decided to believe it, that what it's doing on that land is not for public distribution, then they shouldn't have to give it to you or make it public, because that happened in Canada when during the Cold War, we had the government had like a bunker. It's now called, the prime minister at the time was a guy named Diefenbaker, and they call it the Diefen bunker. And it was created underground, and the only way this information came out is a reporter got wind that it could be happening, but of course they wouldn't give it out because it just totally defeats the purpose of being a place that your government can go and be safe from attack. And this reporter went into a town and went to the only locksmith in town who happened to get the contract to go put the locks on the doors. So he said, "Oh yeah, I go out there. Yeah, no big deal. Yeah, they've got all these things underground and they've got wires and crap like that. And yeah, I get a good check. No big deal." Well, then he posted it in the newspaper, got the big scoop, and luckily there wasn't a nuclear attack, because that would have been the first place that was hit. So those are kinds of reasons you don't want to leak it to the general public. So there would be a reason. And again, it's like my fail-safe, one person's conspiracies, another group's policy. Always question policy. It might have been made 30 years ago and made sense back then, and every employee that was hired after that, they just keep being told, "Oh, that's just the way we do it." Question the policy, because it might be time to open some of those doors up.
Markham, your turn.
I don't think that for the safety of the nation, I think it's going to be abused, and it's obviously been abused, but I don't think they are obligated to tell us what's going on there. I mean, if you are completely transparent, then your enemies also know what's going on. So I think like I said, there are going to be abuses, but no, I do not think the government needs to say what they're building or what's going on inside the secret bases.
Mm-hmm. Eric Cooper, as a former military man, what is your opinion on that?
I think when it comes to military secrecy, when it comes to defense of the nation, there should be no obligation. Because, again, like Markham and like James said, if the public knows, the enemy knows. And completely agree. It's going to come out eventually. A lot of secrecy does. A lot of secrecy doesn't. When it comes to technology that could benefit humanity, I think there's a fine line there, and I agree. A lot of abuse can happen with that secrecy, but when it comes to defense of the nation, no, there's no obligation. That's where a lot of our military craft came from that protect our nation. So,
true.
That's where the line is.
Very true. Now let's get to the man who hates socialism but collects a disability check. Joseph Francis Aquilino, you got the final say on this one.
Yeah, if I didn't have a disability, I wouldn't be collecting an SSD check. But
it's
anyway,
a socialist program. It's a socialist program.
Yes, I know that, Dave, but I have a disability.
Your parents should be supporting you.
All right, yes. So, all right. Anyway, that's not the question. The question is the question is.
Hold on. How's the dash gun doing?
Oh, the dash hound is doing great. You're going to get the ass of it soon. It's coming to your house. Don't worry.
I'm waiting for it. All right, get to your answer already. Gosh.
All right, my answer is, as you know, I'm very transparent, but in these cases, no. I think that certain things need to stay secret, including, anything to do with war or military. I think that needs to stay secret. So, yes, I agree with everybody and say no on that.
The only thing transparent around here is your Fruit of the Looms right now.
I don't wear that, by the way. I don't wear Fruit of the Looms, Dave. How'd you know?
Anyway.
Anyhow, let's move on. James Tyson, we'd love to get to one of your questions.
Oh, I bet you would. Oh, okay. So, one of our good friends in the SOR Space Travelers is Bob Davis, and he posted something today about chemtrails. And I want to know what your opinion is on chemtrails. Do they actually exist? And if so, who the dickens is doing it and why? Actually, stave the and why. I got a follow-up question later, too.
All right, I'll start off with this one. I do believe they're real, and I'll tell you why. Since I moved north, I get maybe one chemtrail a month, and I used to really be a believer in the whole. There's no such thing as chemtrails; they're all contrails,
or vapor,
whatever it could be. All right, and when I moved north, I realized once again that contrails and vapor disappear. Chemtrails turn into clouds.
You think?
Positive.
No.
Positive. Well, you can't ask my opinion and then shut it down like that.
I know, it's just kind of funny.
And I'll tell you, since I moved north, it has really opened my eyes to the possibility that chemtrails could be real. Who is spraying them? I have no clue. I don't believe the whole idea that there's alien spaceships flying around, zooming around, doing these chemtrails. I think that's getting a little bit too tinfoil hattish. But I do believe that weather manipulation is real. And if there's some way that they can control it, whether it's to try and kill pollution over top of cities, whether it's in spraying to get rid of carbon monoxide, there has to be some reason behind it. I do believe it is a real thing, and do I have any proof? No. This is an internal thought, right? But once again, you can't believe everything you see, but I think there is plenty of evidence going on that they are spraying some sort of chemicals, And yes, there is a lot of airline traffic out, but I always remember looking up at the sky now that I've moved north and seeing if the chemtrails if the contrails disappear quick, and they do. And up here, we don't have a very humid sky, so maybe my science is off, but I really don't think that there would be too much vapor up there to burn off. Eric Markham, your call.
Well, I think there's something to it, but when you look at the research that's been done, nobody has actually tried to get a sample out of a chemtrail or a contrail. And what they do is they take snow or pond sediment. They're getting their stuff secondhand, and they're finding aluminum, copper, strontium in these samples, the environmental samples. But then they try to explain. They say 80 to 89% of the samples can be explained by simple things, just industrial waste and that from smokestacks and stuff like that. I can't remember where I saw it, but seems like somebody kind of high up in the previous administration actually let the cat out of the bag about it. I remember as a kid watching a jet, because when I was young, airplanes were still like a phenomenon. And you would see a jet way up, and its vapor trail wasn't that far behind it. It would dissipate. Now, you say, you look up on a heavy flight day, and it's like cloud cover, and it lingers. So I think there's something to it. I think the only way to really prove it would be able to fly up at that altitude and get put some chromatography paper out or some way of collecting a specimen directly from the chemtrail itself analyze it.
Eric, I hate to cut you off, but what if I could tell you that I know someone who has a sample?
Oh, really?
Yes. And I'm not going to give the person's name because I know they don't want people running all over the place, looking for it. But he has numerous samples, and you know the person too.
Oh, wow.
So we'll get into that at another time, but I would like to get you some of that sample so you could test it out.
Oh, yeah.
Because he has offered up that sample of the substance that he has found on his property after the chemtrails have flown over his house. And it is almost like some sort of goop or something like that. So
is it a shiny film?
I know the person is listening, so if you could private message me on Facebook, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm asking because I grew up near an international airport and in a kind of a farm area, and the farm fields close to the airport would have a sheen. You could rub your hand on the grass, actually, and it was oily from the plane taking off.
Diesel, it's basically just... JP4, JP5 is basically kerosene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Jet fuel, you would think it'd be like this super high octane racing fuel, and it's basically preheated kerosene.
Exactly.
Smells just like it.
No,
so you would expect a film like that.
I understand that. And when I'm waiting for this person to message me.
Okay.
Cool. And when he does, I will get to it. But hopefully he's still listening.
Yeah, I'd love to run something like that through a gas chromatography instrument or a mass spectrometer, just see what's in it.
Yes, and if he doesn't get back to me, we're going to borrow one of Joe's pointy sticks and get this person in the eye.
What's
get
interesting
him in the
about
eye,
this?
Dave. Get him in the eye.
Who grew up in the Pacific Northwest on our panel here, other than Dave and I?
Me.
Yeah. Do you recall 9 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, back in the day, the B-52s out of Washington State heading up to their fail-safe?
I don't. Oh,
okay.
I lived in the country, and yeah, we had little airports around here, little Cessna airports, nothing big.
Okay, they used to come over our house on the way up to Alaska to hit the Aleutians, to hit their fail-safe and come back. So 9 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon. Yeah. And those vapor trails on a still day could stick around 3-4 hours.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the difference is contrail is when they dump their fuel, whereas a chemtrail is what's leaving the clouds.
Because I remember those. We had a base in Indiana just down from us, Grissom Field, and it was a Strategic Air Command B-52 base.
Mm-hmm. You know what? Now, I recall back in the 90s when I was studying chemtrails, and I'll have to look for the links I've got, but there was someone in Seattle that actually got a goop out of a chemtrail, and it was tested, and it turned out to be streptococcus.
It turned out to be what?
Streptococcus. Strep.
Wow.
Bacteria.
Really?
And again, I'd have to do a whole lot of back research to find out where that source came from. This was back in the 90s. So, we have chemtrails up here in concrete all the time. A lot of the planes that people have seen actually making chemtrails turn out to be white. They're white, unmarked jets. Are they government? Who knows?
This sample with the strep on it, was it collected in a way that it could have been contaminated?
And that's very possible. You know, that's very possible too. I don't. This is back in the 90s. I don't remember all the details. I just remember what struck me odd was the fact that they got strep coming out of the sky.
That just seems hard to justify a government's mass spraying strep.
Yeah.
Well, and that's very true. But
sorry.
Talking about flu real quick. This is the worst flu year we've had. We actually had our pediatrician tell us when we had our kids tested that the flu vaccine this year doesn't work. And I've had this discussion before. I think the government engineers flu, which is why the military has forced flu vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
So who's to say they're not spraying flu on everybody?
It's just a crappy delivery system. If you're going to spray it, you don't spray it during the day when there's more wind. You spray it at night. That's what we do. One of the cities here in Canada, Winnipeg, has such a bad mosquito problem. They spray it at night for the mosquitoes. They don't.
Right.
And somebody said, "Oh my God, you're doing it at night, so we can't see it." No, it's because there's less people walking around, and the air is still. If I really wanted to give a population, if I wanted to give somebody the flu, I'd put it in the water system. Best delivery system.
But see, okay, like what about those of us with wells? It wouldn't get everybody. It get a mass population, true.
Yeah.
So to get it in my well, they would have to spray it.
Mm-hmm. But the problem with spraying something like the flu or strep is that, especially strep, you're going to have people in that population that you're going to want to protect from this. So either there are a whole bunch of lower to mid-level politicians and officials that know about this and know when to protect themselves, or it got contaminated or something. It just doesn't make sense to me to mass dose or mass spray or cover an entire area with something like that.
And the word chemtrail is it's a use by weather modification. aircraft. So it does exist, and I'll post a link to that on the one of the chats here. But it's it's a very common. When you see these planes, they look a little spooky. They look like a bunch of hoses out the back of it, but they're weather modification planes, and they use chemicals. Isn't it dry ice, Eric?
No, I think it's a like a colloidal. It's a mix of metallic anions, something that can. My understanding is it's being used to reflect some of the ultraviolet back into space.
Oh, okay.
So it's metallo-ions and things that would have a reflective quality.
Like mercury.
Yeah, possibly. Well, you would be seeing, if they were dropping mercury out of the air, you would be seeing the effects of that almost right away.
Yeah, it'd be pretty
so highly toxic. Yeah, and with Fukushima having gone off and with all the stuff it pumped into the atmosphere, it is plausible that this stuff is just circling, getting into the jet stream and circling around and being deposited. But one of the surest ways to look for an increase in certain isotopes, radioactive isotopes and elements like cadmium, is you grow, I think it's tobacco. There's certain plants will sequester certain elements more than others. And if you have a baseline to study off of, I guess even you could use dendrochronology in some cases, but if you are thinking that there's more strontium, more cadmium, more of some other kind of metal, heavy metal in the environment, you grow the kind of plants that will sequester it. And then you can get a baseline. What does this thing usually sequester in a non-contaminated environment? Grow a wild crop, and you see what it pulls up out of the soil, and you can compare the two. But the whole strep thing, the strep pyogenes is can be transmitted through airborne droplets. I mean, you don't have to just drink after somebody can cough or sneeze when they have strep throat, and you can get group A strep that way. I'm just not sure from the altitude. It sounds to me more like it was contaminated, because you can be carrying strep pyogenes and be asymptomatic until enough of the organism grows. So if the person working with that sample had it, or somebody in their environment had it, it could have contaminated. I'd like to know more about how they discovered because to get strep to grow, it's usually got to be a blood agar plate. It's got to have sheep blood in it, like 5% sheep blood.
Yeah,
and it'll grow on that, and you can tell whether it's group A or group B by the zone of hemolysis, or how it metabolizes the blood that's in that plate. If it's beta strep, it'll clear out all you'll look around the colonies, and all the blood will be gone, and you'll just be looking through the agar like a gel. It's just like a gelatin made out of kelp. If it's group A, it's called greening. It partially metabolizes the blood, and you get a zone of green around the organism. So it's easy to distinguish. Plus, you do like a strep A kit. We have a kit here where I can take a swab from your throat and tell you if you got it or not with a reasonable amount of accuracy. But it's very difficult if you're not trained in aseptic technique. It's real easy to contaminate what you're testing without even knowing you did.
Let's move on to another question here. Or do you want to get something in there, Eric?
No, I'm done.
Or Everett, I'm sorry, you wanted to get something in?
I had a question for Eric, but we'll talk about it later. It might end up going really long.
Well, now you're leaving us all in suspense.
I was just going to ask Eric if, we were talking about Fukushima, and if there are chemtrails and methods to do chemtrails, would there be any way that the government could essentially seed the atmosphere to pull the irradiated ions out of the atmosphere before they get to, like, the U.S. coast?
Well, the problem with that is they're going to end up, if you pull them out of the atmosphere, they're going to land, they're either going to contaminate the land or the ocean. And we're probably, at this point, better off if the stuff just stays aloft. So I don't know if it would... There's ways you could do it. I mean, there's basic chemical reactions that you can put things up there that'll chelate or, bind to whatever it's like a lock and key type of thing. You can use a chelating agent that would then cause it to precipitate. But I think they're probably hoping that the atmosphere, instead of concentrating it in one place or contaminating the ocean, I think the approach is let it naturally diffuse. That way everybody gets a little, but nobody gets all of it. If you use chelating agents or you use concentration methods to get it to precipitate out of the air, you would probably create dead zones from the toxicity. And you're looking at I think the half-life of plutonium is 240,000 years. So it takes about 10 half-lives for something like plutonium to be you're talking a few million years for this stuff to be non-toxic. So yes, they could chelate it, concentrate it, get to fall out of the atmosphere, but I think that would probably be stupid even for the elitists to do, because they have to eat the food and they have to breathe the air too.
All right, I'm going to get to a question from Gail here, and then we're going to move on topics because we've got a plethora of questions left. And Gail is asking, and we'll start with you on this one, Eric Markham. I'll give you the answer to this one, or you get the answer to this one, pardon me. She says, if someone were going to go and spray some biotoxin, doesn't it make sense that it would be something new?
I'm not quite sure I'm catching what she's asking.
Well, we're talking about the chemicals that they are spraying.
Okay.
So wouldn't it be something different than what we would normally think about?
Well, in a case like that, it could be some kind of experimental... Yeah, I guess that's feasible. I would think they would go with the tried and true, things that they put out there that they know what the reaction is, because they're going to want to monitor success. And with something new, unless they're putting it out there and that's their experimental, their experiment is put it out there and see what happens. They're not sure what the effects are going to be, but I'm not sure that's I'm not saying they wouldn't do it. I just don't think that would be a viable approach. You don't know. You have if it's something new, you could end up with you don't know how it would spread, how it will proliferate, and it's like pulling the grenade and dropping it at your feet. It's going to take you out with it. So I'm not sure if they would use that approach. I think they would use something they could predict.
All right, moving on here. We're going to stick with you, Eric Markham, because your question is up.
Okay. This is my question to everybody. If it was discovered and proven beyond all shadow of a doubt that aliens or an alien race was responsible for our genesis, we were, say, Sitchin was right. We're the product of aliens tampering with our DNA. How would that change your life and views?
Well, it would first of all make you a New York Mets fan.
Oh, no.
Oh, come on.
Don't wake Joey up.
Hey, I've been up.
I know.
Joey, let's get your opinion on this.
Yeah. What's the question again? I totally missed the question. What's the question?
Okay. Say the U.S., whatever, some ruling body, somebody makes the announcement that it is beyond a shadow of a doubt, and everybody can see the evidence. I mean, it's not a hoax. It really happens, and it's 100% incontrovertible proof that aliens were responsible for our genesis, that we were created by an advanced race. No argument. I mean, it's proven fact, just like you got to breathe air to live. How would that change your life, your views, your religion? Now, what kind of changes would that make in your life? How would you handle that?
I would still be a Mets fan. I definitely would still be a Mets fan.
Yeah, there's no cure for that.
Yeah, there's no cure for that. Yeah, but I actually, very interesting question. I wouldn't really change much. I mean, like, I would still live the way I'm living. I mean, like, I personally wouldn't change anything. I mean, like, it would be interesting to know I descended from aliens, but. Me personally, I would still live the way I'm living now. Simple life. So.
Well, you're no fun.
Sorry. Well,
let's get to Coop's answer here.
It wouldn't change me at all. It would just confirm what I've always speculated for a lot of years. So, and I'm as boring as Joseph. I wouldn't change a damn thing. I'd be asking, okay, so now what? What's next? How are we going to improve from this point? What are you going to do to alter us now? And why haven't you been here to fix the mess ups here? But no, it wouldn't change my worldview. It wouldn't change my belief. It wouldn't change nothing.
You sound like when your biological father comes back in your life when you're 30.
Well, yeah, essentially.
Where have you been?
Right.
I put myself through university and.
Would it change my hatred of reptilians? No, because I don't think reptilians. If anything, the Anunnaki would be the ones that it would come out that did see this planet and the 22 races along with it that we talked about on S4. But no, it just confirmed my speculation anyway.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Everett, your thoughts?
I think all of a sudden I would feel like some sort of alien teenager's pet or experiment. I think... I don't know. I think it would suck some of the mystery out of life. I think it would probably change my religious views. I'm probably going to be the only one that says all this, but I think it would actually profoundly affect me. I would feel so small and almost, like I said, like a science experiment or somebody's pet.
James?
We are very small. Well, this is kind of weird because I had my DNA checked, sort of, and it goes back 30,000 years. First sign of it shows up just north of the Valley of the Kings in Egypt, and then goes over top of Europe and down through the UK. But I asked I bumped into an alien the other day, and I said, "Hey, why does my DNA not go back farther than 30,000 years, and where was it before it was found?" And the answer was, he knows he has reptilian DNA, right? It's like, no. could explain my agility in climbing trees, but no, it's like, I did not know that. So this has only been a week, and I'm thinking about it and going, okay. So it really hasn't sunk in that I'm not an experiment, but I'm just an offspring 30,000 years ago of some tourist that showed up. So I don't know. I don't think if I found out today that we were an experiment, it's like, obviously to me the experiment's going okay.
I think it would have more, to me, I guess, I'm talking to the wrong crowd because we all have such alternate beliefs but it's like, if you were a highly religious, devout, Christian or Muslim or, some kind of Abrahamic religion, and you find out that you've got it wrong from that standpoint, what would it do?
Or was God a Palladian?
Yeah, are we misinterpreting what happened?
I can tell you how I would feel. I would feel absolutely mortified if that were the case. Because I think, like a lot of people who were brought up and who have gone up, whether you go to church, whether you believe in spirituality, whether you have some connection into the belief of God per se, like I do, I would be absolutely mortified to find this out. Because that would mean, to me, that the entire history, the entire facade of mankind and in our history would be absolutely fraudulent. And it would absolutely, it would break my heart. Like, it would be like, what is the point of this? What was the point of this giant reality game sham of what is going on? And it would literally, I can tell you right now, it would sink me into a depression. It would sink me into my anxiety. And for a lot of people who suffer like I do, probably even make people suicidal. Because what's the point? What's
that's probably why, if it was true, that's why it hasn't come out.
Could be. Right? It could be. But on the flip side, you hope, and I don't care if you're the Pope or if you are a religious parishioner, if you're somebody like me who's on the fence, okay, of figuring out what to believe. Because when you see an alien face to face with your open eyes in the middle of the daytime, it makes you question everything. And I mean everything. And I could say this, for as much as I've seen, if anything, it's brought me, in my opinion, closer to God. But if I found out that God was a sham, everything was a sham, okay, and that we are some sort of extraterrestrial DNA experiment, that would hurt. I'm just not sure of that. And I'm sure that a lot of the population, Eric, would be like me.
Do you think after that, though, it would be liberating? Once you got past that? Or would you stay in that?
Not at all. Because now I would have to try and find a new spiritual purpose. I'd be seeking the truth. Right? Well, and that's a great point. Most people on this planet won't be able to handle the truth. Right? And maybe that's why. Let's move on to a cheerier topic.
Too late.
Right? Okay, my next question here is, panel, in your opinion, what is the biggest flaw with ghost hunters or ghost hunting right now? And what would you like to see changed? James, you're part of the Canadian Paranormal Society. I would like to start with you on this one.
Oh, you know what I really want to do right now? Ask you to repeat the question, but I know it. Just because I know how that twists Dave's off sometime. One of the biggest things that, excuse me, I think one of my testicles dropped and bounced back up. One of the things that I think is really a struggle for them is to, it's kind of what happened to the film industry in the late 70s and early 80s in Los Angeles, which pushed them all up the Pacific Northwest and into other places. They're burning out locations. They had really good locations where they could go and film, but they treated the people who own those locations so badly, they just said it's not worth it anymore. So we've got that in one basket. The other basket, we have all these, what do you call them, Dave? Pokemon ghosts, who
Yes.
weekend warriors that if, you know, they like going out and talking to trees and cemeteries and, but I would really like to get into the haunted building, which has been told, like, it's been in the media that this is a haunted place, and I saw a guy on TV go to this place. I want to get in there too, and they go in, they screw it all up, they break something or walk away with friggin' a thing off the wall or something, a painting, which was a story I heard not too long ago. And so those locations get shut down. We've got a wave of people going in wanting to get a recording of a spirit, want to talk to a ghost, want to see a ghost, want to get that little adrenaline rush, whatever their stupid reason is. And they're damaging not only the reputation of people who want to go in and help spirit cross, but they're damaging the reputation for everybody else who may want to go in there and clean that residence. And it's just really screwing everything up. We at Vancouver Paranormal are probably one of those hated groups because we go in to a haunted location and we ask if they want it to go. So the next group comes along saying, hey, we heard the place is haunted. We'd like to come in. And nope, sorry, Canadian Paranormal, we're here. It's no longer haunted. Because we do have that little short lady from Poltergeist who says, it's clear now. You know, it's... so I think that's what does it. There's kind of this perfect storm of stupidity and greed from a bunch of weekend warriors out there, which has really affected people who have legitimate questions about what happens to us when we pass.
Eric Cooper, your opinion.
I'm completely with James. You know, if I see Waverly mentioned on my group one more time, I'm going to scream. They're all beating up the same as haunted. What are they going to get? Another EVP, another picture? Personally, I don't give a damn about seeing their EVP or hearing their EVP or their picture. They're all about fame, glory, and ego. That's the biggest gist of most of these. And again, I've been getting a database together of groups that I'm willing to work with. And if I see science, you see science on about 9 out of 10 paranormal group pages. Science, really? You need, you know what? Playing with a toy is not science, and it's all about the 15 minutes of fame, and that's really what's wrong with it today. Not crossing over a spirit that's stuck here, not helping a client that's terrified, whether it's an alien abductee or someone that's we get about 5 at a minimum. We do have down days, don't get me wrong, but we do get about 5 cases a day. And that's coming from other paranormal groups that, wow, they don't know what to do. So they've heard about Forest Moon Paranormal, and they call us in. The other ones are the other paranormal groups on Facebook. I'm friends with a lot of the moderators of a lot of the different groups. They see someone asking for help, they call us in. We're all about the crisis. I don't care about an EVP. If we get an EVP or a picture, cool. That just proves what we're dealing with. But I deal more with, Markham is our scientist and mediums to communicate, pass over. If we had more groups that were about helping people and helping spirits cross over, that's where the paranormal's at.
Mm-hmm. Everett.
James and Eric kind of took my answer. People aren't out there hunting ghosts to research or to learn anything anymore. They're out there to get the shot, to put on YouTube, or somehow get, their way into getting into a little bit of fame or get notoriety. It's less about anything useful in terms of education, and it's all about what can ghost hunting do for me now. Everybody wants to be a paranormal celebrity or, something like that. And that's what they're doing. They're not trying to research. They're trying to make themselves known or popular or famous.
I can see that. Joey?
This house is clear. No, I'm actually, I believe the problem with it is that there's too many ghost hunting groups that ask for money, and they shouldn't be asking for money for talents that they have. I mean, they should honestly, get a job, get a real job, because that's a hobby what they do. That's a hobby what they do, and I don't feel that they should be asking for money. I feel that's a sham. When ghost hunting group says, "Oh, we're going to clear your house," how do you know they're actually clearing the house? So I think, where the sham is and where the problem is when some of these groups actually ask for money, and so on and so forth. If you have a special gift, you should be using that, for, people should be getting that for free, I think.
Mm-hmm. We got about 5 minutes here before we got to go to our break at the top of the hour. Markham, I'd like your answer on this one before we move on.
Well, I'm compiling baseline data, with some recording equipment I bought. And I think the main problem is nobody wants to put the tedious work into truly scientifically investigating this phenomenon. They want to go someplace that's supposedly haunted, wave their trimeters around and bump into each other in the dark and say, "What the F is that? What the F is that?" when a rat scurries across the hall. I just think that the weekend warriors are damaging the field more than that can be given credit for. And you look at the number of sites that have been closed off from investigation because you get a bunch of unprofessional jackwagons in there doing Pokemon Ghost. It's not the EVP. It's not the picture. Nobody's going to believe that crap anyway. That's something you're getting for yourself, to be honest. You might be using it as a verification that there's something there. Okay, you got your EVP. That's where you jump off. That's not your end goal. You get the EVP, that says there's something there to investigate. Then you roll your sleeves up, get down to the tedious part of trying to figure out what it is. And I don't see that happening. I see these people going in on, like you said, going in on a weekend, waving a bunch of technology in the air, half of which they don't even know what they're detecting. They get a signal on their tri-field meter and think, "Oh, yay, we got to go." And it's somebody's wireless router or somebody's cell phone in their pocket reaching out and doing a handshake with the local tower. That's what's wrong. There's too many people investigating it that don't know what they're investigating and don't know what to do with it once they get it. Mm-hmm. It's a collector mentality.
Mm-hmm. Excuse me, guys. Remnants
but
of my
don't you think we kind of feed that, though, or the public feeds that mentality? Every time one location decides they're not going to have ghost hunters or ghost hunts go on, it seems that somewhere another similar type of business all of a sudden has this legend of this haunting, and they want all those ghost hunters there. So it seems like as soon as one gets closed off, another one kind of pops up, and we don't know if it's legitimately haunted or if it's just a business ploy.
Exactly. A marketing ploy.
That's where the ghost tourism comes in. They're making money because some of them will charge ghost hunters to come in and play, and they're making money off the ghost hunters.
But you know what?
And that's ghost tourism.
I'm going to tell you this. The museum that I am a part of up here where I live, we are actually starting paranormal tourism to help raise money for the museum as a nonprofit organization. We're going to do it once a month. I can understand the reason why it's done in order to help save some of these historical sites in order to keep the upkeep. But there does come a point, if you're going into someone's house and charging, or you're going in to prove that a haunted place is haunted, that's where it gets a little bit ridiculous on the forefront there. And we only got about 35, 40 seconds here before we're going to go to break. And I want you all to think about this next time you are all driving. And if you're a rock fan, a good fan of rock music, you'll very much understand what I'm about to say. Remember, you know how they always want us to keep our hands on the steering wheel. So remember this. Def Leppard is the safest band to air drum to while driving because you can always keep one hand on the steering wheel.
That's right.
I hope Rick Allen's not listening.
Yes.
And if he is, I hope he's got a beer in his hand so he won't turn us off.
Hey! Ho! Hey, ho! Anyways, remember that. If you're out traveling about here in your vehicle, you listen to some Def Leppard if you want to get a little bit excited. Hour number 3 of Spaced Out Radio coming up right after this, where we're going to make our draw for the SOR Space Traveler of the Month. Coming right up. You're listening to the mighty SOR. 1 hour to go.
The SOR Sightlines is a place for you to find answers to your strange experiences. Hi there, this is Mike Schmidt. If you have had an encounter with ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, ETs, or anything else that doesn't make sense, head to spacedoutradio.com and file a Sightlines report. All information you give is 100% confidential, and I will personally help you find the answers you need. SOR Sightlines, your answers are a click away.
Have you got your Cosmic Passport? If you need one, tune in to Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Weekend. This is Elizabeth Anglin, ET experiencer, spirit medium, and host of Cosmic Passport. Each weekend I'll be bringing you interviews and support from other paranormal experiencers, and the best in intuitive spiritual guidance from across the globe. It's all happening starting at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, midnight Eastern, on spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4 Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
This is your medium, Joanna, from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 mediums and a large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
Have you checked out the SOR Spacewire at spacedoutradio.com yet? Every day we post the latest stories regarding the weird, strange, and completely unbelievable. From cryptid and UFO sightings to the conspiracy world, we tackle it all. Hi there, I'm Eric Markham, Space Out Radio's news director for the SOR Spacewire. And if you have a story, I want to hear it. Email me at news@spacedoutradio.com.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
A child grew up too fast, went running wild. Now we don't know who to pray to anymore.
Welcome back to the final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you along for tonight's ride as we continue on hour number 3 of Spaced Out Radio. Remember, if you're listening in on the Revolution Radio, it is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. I want to thank everyone listening in on the United Public Radio Network, live on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. Good to have you with us. And, of course, we are live in Sin City, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas. It's good to be going into the night in that city that never sleeps. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. It's Thiopagist. I'm not even going to pronounce it again because I really don't want to. It scares me. Thanks, Bill, for freaking me out with the password, but that's about it. Yes, Bill sets the password each and every night. Hey, remember, tomorrow night and Sunday we have Spaced Out Weekend. Rockin' and rollin' here in Uncle Jimbo's cabin. James Tyson and Elizabeth Anglin will be in 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time as things go along. So we definitely want to keep you going right here on the mighty SOR. Remember, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. Find us on Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download this show and others on iTunes. And, of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. While there, we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club. It's $5 a month, which gets us to tonight's winner. We do the draw every single month on this show. So make sure when you do this and you sign up for the Space Travelers Club, you get in so that way we can definitely get your name into the draw. This month's winner of the SOR Space Travelers Club, Richard Motko. Richard Motko is our winner for the month of January. Thank you very much, Richard, for being on the Space Travelers. We really appreciate your support here on the mighty SOR. Thank you so much. Richard Motko, you are the winner of January's SOR Space Traveler of the Month. It's good to have you with us. Please send me your address so we can get you your prize. You can do that on social media or send it to info@spacedoutradio.com. We got the panel in tonight for the SOR Space Travelers. And we got James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend, Eric Markham and Eric Cooper from the SOR Space Travelers. We have, of course, Everett Thiemer, Joey Effin Giggles. We don't know what the F stands for, but there we are. There we are. Joey
Think
Francis Giggles. Before we get to Joe's question, I want to get to Gail's question in the SOR Space Travelers Club. She is asking, how does someone who needs help discern the showboaters from the genuine thing when it comes to the paranormal? James Tyson, we'll start there with you.
Oh, Dave, I was typing. Oh, my gosh, I'm going to do one of those Joey things. Preparing for the paranormal, did you say?
Yes. Well, how does someone discern the showboaters from the genuine investigators?
Oh, the famous Gail question. You know, now that she's... No, I was going to say she's old, but that's not Gail. The showboaters, talk to them. And we have a number of questions at the Canadian Paranormal Society website. You ask them what they're going to do with the evidence when they find it. And if they say, okay, we're going to analyze it, well, and then what are you going to do? We'll share it with you, okay? And then what? And if a lot of the showboaters will say, well, then we're going to, well, they're thinking, crap, no one's ever asked that before. I really just want to invite a whole bunch of my friends back, and we'll keep going and poking at this thing until you get tired of us. Those are the showboaters. You want to get somebody who is going to answer the question, you know, what are you going to do with the evidence? Well, we'll go through it, just seeing it anything that you might find interesting, we'll come down and talk to you about it. We'll actually meet with you. We'll talk about it. We're not going to forget about you. And if we do get something, we're going to ask you your opinion on what you would like done, if you'd like it cleared or you're good with what we have. We also have a couple of psychics that can step forward and for free communicate with this thing, if you like, and ask the being, or if we did get communication in the first investigation, we'll ask him, would you like to cross? And it's, we'll get that information. We'll give that to the client and say, look, whatever's here is just lost and would like to go. And we can get rid of, we'll move it on for you for free. That is a legit group. The ones who stand there stunned when you ask, what are you going to do with the evidence, are the ones you say, yeah, maybe move along. And always ask for references from another investigation. It's just like hiring a bunch of cleaners coming in. Get a reference, legit references.
Joe, what's your answer on that?
Easy. Basically, if they charge, they're probably a showboat. Because I feel that anybody that charges for a special gift or a special cleaning or whatever, come in and cleanse your house, they're the showboaters. The ones that charge, the ones that don't charge are not the showboaters. So that's the easy answer to that one.
All right. I got my cousins here from Las Vegas. I'll let them say hi. They Facebook messaged me here on video. You want to say hi, cuz?
I absolutely do.
Yes, you just talked to 25,000 people. So thank you so much, my cousins in Vegas. You guys hold on. Everett, I'm curious your opinion on Gail's question in regards to the paranormal, the real from the fake. You tell me about it.
I think if they're at your door and they say they're going to solve all your problems for $500, $100, $50, I would just close the door. I would look at references. I would ask what they're going to do with the evidence, but not so much what they're going to do with it, but how they're going to respond to it. What is their plan? Are they going to come back with other people who can maybe help, whether it be a psychic, if they don't have the skills involved? Ask questions. Anybody who is kind of in this just for the game or for the thrill or for the enjoyment may not have the network to really help you, and they won't be able to answer, questions about, what they're going to do in a particular case or a particular instance. So I think asking questions and making sure that their answers coincide with what you think should be done would be the best place to start. And like I said, if the first thing out of their mouth is they're going to solve your problem for X number of dollars, I would just walk away and live with the problem until I found somebody else.
Joe or Eric Cooper, I'm curious, your opinion. Where did Cooper go? Did he get booted? Did Cooper get booted?
He said his phone cut off.
His phone always cuts off. It's much like his underwear. His phone always gets cut off. Damn army rats. All right. I think we nailed that question. If you hear a ringing sound right now, we're getting Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal back into this conversation. He's got one hell of a good beard. If you ever see a picture of him. There he is. Coop, you're back. All right, Joe, let's get to your question for the panel here. Let's get this thing going, man.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I'm into curses, right? So do you believe in the curse of King Tutankhamun's tomb? And where do you think it originated from and why? Anybody?
James.
Oh, could I pass on this one? I got to think about it. No, pass for a second. Go to somebody else.
Okay, let's get to Cooper on this one.
Do I believe in King Tutankhamun's curse? I don't think it was a curse in the general sense of what a curse is today. I believe, honestly, because you read about the archaeologists that went into the tomb and they died. I believe that was bacteria. I believe that was not a curse per se. Where did it originate? It didn't. I think it was bacteria. That's my honest opinion. As far as curses go, yes, they are real. As far as King Tut's curse, no. That's my simple answer.
All right. Markham, let's get your topic on curses here.
Okay, in the case of King Tut's tomb, you're looking at an era in when basic infections could kill you. There was no real antibiotics out there. It didn't take much. And some of these people that were over there, probably it's the reverse of what happened when the Spanish came to the New World with their diseases. You get these Europeans that don't have the antibodies, or they don't have an immune system that's used to some of the tropical diseases, and they would succumb faster. And I think where the actual curse, and I'm not going to Google this, but the basic idea of the curse, I believe, was an English newspaper man's. I think it was the sensationalism that was, people had no way of knowing. And when a rich man like Lord Carnarvon dies 4 months and a week after they open the tomb, that gives you a good, it gives you a good platform, and you run with it. Of course, it probably would have taken a month or two for the news to get back to the mainland that he was dead. But yeah, I think the whole curse of Tutankhamun was a media, a way to sell papers. Yellow journalism was starting to come into its own in that era. So no, I don't think there was. I think it was exposure to pathogens that hadn't seen the light of day for a couple thousand years, weakened immune systems, and just the times.
Right on. Everett, what's your thoughts on curses?
I don't think King Tut's curse is anything. I think it was malaria and some bacterial infections that coincided. It looked like it could be a story, and it was just turned into, like Eric said, yellow journalism. It spread and sold papers. I don't think there's really anything there.
I can tell you guys one thing. I was cursed. And I've had it confirmed by a couple of different people. This person whom I was very close to at one time, my wife and I were very close to at one time, we had a falling out with them, and this is where most of my personal experience happened, was on their property, and the ex-wife of a friend, she actually was a witch, and she cursed me because she was a little bit pissed off that I was having all of these experiences. And I've not only had psychic people confirm that who have read me, but I have also had people who know her confirm that had happened. So it's been very, very tough. The curse is now over. I've had it removed. But when I patched a friendship up with her ex, he actually told me point blank, yes, she did curse you. And
did you know?
Go ahead.
Did you know that she had put this curse on you from the beginning? Did you know about it right away?
I didn't right away, but the more I started getting it, this was right at the beginning when I was starting Spaced Out Radio, and we were starting to have some immediate effect on what was going on, and something just seemed off because we always seemed to be right there, but we couldn't get there. You know what I'm saying? We just could not get to where we needed to go. There was always something. Every time we took 2 steps forward, we were getting knocked back another step. Right? So we were
Do you think the... Go ahead.
So it was tough, man, and we finally got that removed, and it was good. I've been fine ever since.
Do you think the curse affected you more before you knew about it or after you knew about it?
Mm-hmm. Before. Definitely before. So it is something that I found very disconcerting. Like, why would someone do that? You know the amount of evil that a person has to feel in order to do that? Right?
Yeah.
Well, and a piece of your hair.
Well, exactly. But the whole point is the fact that someone would actually go out of their way to do that is relatively painful. Right? It is.
Agreed.
It's emotional, and it's like, I have no ill will to you. Just because my wife and I decided to back away, it doesn't mean that I dislike you so much that I want bad things to happen to you. But that's apparently what happened. So we just moved on.
I will tell you that at one point in time I had made an enemy, and I found out later they had put a curse on me. And I will admit that after the falling out, so to speak, I felt things were kind of weird. Something was off in my life, just not right. And then when somebody told me that this person had put a curse on me, it seemed to make things 10 times worse. It was like once I knew about it, everything bad in my life seemed to get blamed on this curse, and it just seemed like the bad kind of grew. And eventually, I don't know if it was ever removed. I lost touch with all of those people. But eventually it just seemed to kind of dissipate or go away. Whether I forgot about it or it just didn't affect me that much anymore in my head, or it was removed. I don't know. But I can see where you're coming from. But curses kind of interest me because they're almost a psychological experiment.
Mm-hmm. I can feel.
Well, they grow. They grow with strength when the individual knows, because then it becomes psychosomatic as well, which adds to the energy of it. When someone plucks a piece of your hair or uses some of your blood, things of that nature, that ties their energy for their curse to you directly. And that's why you always see in movies, which is it's accurate, is when you see them getting a piece of hair off the comb or things of that nature. But curses themselves...
And nobody gets my hair.
Yeah.
Your hair
you
to
won't know it
yourself.
because they will go in your bathroom, and you won't think about you don't know if they're an enemy or not all the time. They go in your bathroom, there's your comb.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you're always careful who you let in your home.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, curses themselves, very real. The astral team actually does remove curses as well as part of what we do. It's a mere cutting of an energy tie. The rumors and all the stories about it's got to be the witch that takes the curse off. No, it don't. Anyone can take the curse off.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Trust me, it was a lot of black salt and Palo Santo wood that got rid of it. But we got rid of it.
Yep.
Yep. All right. Moving on. Let's get a question from you, Everett.
Let's have a little fun with this one. Why are cemeteries always so haunted in the eyes of ghost hunters and paranormal investigators?
Oh, I have no idea.
It's like Walmart, man. It's like Walmart.
I mean,
and they like
when I
spending the night in
die.
them.
But the thing is, when I die, the last place I want to be if I'm a ghost is just sitting there by my headstone in an empty field.
I find in doing a paranormal investigation in a cemetery, and there's one out here on Vancouver Island called Royal Oak that goes back turn of the century, one of those old school ones. And I talked to a fellow about Gettysburg and some of the graves near there. It's one of those things, if you read the name either in your head or out loud on a tombstone and spend some time there, it's almost like something will step forward and say, do I know you? Like, why are you thinking about me? If they're in that plane where they can do that. But, yeah, you're right. I don't know. My friend lives across the street from a cemetery, and he's got 2 small children that, well, hold on, let me put it this way. The apparitions of 2 small children are he's seen them walk across the street, and they play with his grandkids' toys in the backyard where his grandkids play. And it's bothered him, but he's wondering why they would be around a cemetery, whether maybe their parents they all passed in a car accident, and the kids are still, jumped in the car with the uncles and aunts and grandparents and drove to the funeral and then didn't get a ride back. Who knows? But, yeah, it's the last place I'd be.
Very cool. I don't think I would do a cemetery, man. I really don't think I would do a cemetery right now because it's just uncool. I mean, walking around a cemetery in the middle of the night is kind of freaky. I have done that. However, I could tell you this. There's no aliens hanging around there, so that's the reason why I'm not going to it. So
no Bigfoot either.
No Bigfoot either. But it's an obvious place to start for any amateur, right? It's it's just an honest place to start, and you cannot blame them for going to a cemetery right off the bat to see if that's where they can get some action, because obviously people buried there's obviously going to be spirits and everything that's running around, so you just run with it on that end. So, Joey, your call.
I don't know why, people see cemeteries as always haunted. I don't always see them as haunted. Personally, there might be orbs flying around, this, that, and the other thing. But, I don't see why all cemeteries have to be haunted. Maybe some are. Maybe some of the older ones are, but I don't think all of them are. No.
James, what about your thoughts? Would you start if you were a newbie going into the paranormal, would you end up starting in a cemetery?
You know what? I probably would, just to get that out of my system. There's some good cemeteries that I would love to go to. Again, I would do the reading of the tombstone and seeing what I get. It's just one of those, but then again, I'm looking back at it with my brain that I've already communicated and I've already talked to spirits. But yeah, so I don't know, maybe a good way to try anyway. I honestly think since around between 2011, 2012, since then, you can go in the middle of a soccer or football field with a digital recorder and maybe you might get a voice within 2 hours. I think it's just that easy now. Not like it was 20 years ago when there seemed to be a real thickness of that veil between us and them. Now it's a lot easier to communicate, but that's my opinion, and I've only been doing this since 2012. So guys have been doing it longer. They probably have a better answer for that.
Awesome. Hey, let's talk to you on here, Eric Markham, about the topic. Would you be going into a cemetery as a first-timer looking for ghosts? He's not here. Maybe he had to take a break. Maybe he's been abducted by aliens.
Our last break?
Yes.
The last I...
yeah, go ahead.
The last I heard of Markham, he said he was going to mute his microphone.
Well, apparently he didn't mute his microphone. Maybe it got caught in his beard and he just can't figure it out.
He muted his
All
headphones.
right. Well, let's get to another question then while we're working on this one. And let's get to you, James, your question.
Well, it was a follow-up on the chemtrail, contrail, vapor trail thing. If these things are going on and you've got a let's clear the swamp kind of thing, president, if he was to get information that the government has been testing on the population, would you think that he would then go public with it?
Joe, let's get to your answer on that.
Well,
one of you is allowed to answer without me saying. You can just jump right in. You guys have done this before, Jesus.
all right.
We usually wait for you to call us.
All right, but seriously, I think as any president would, of course, he would make it public. Being transparent, and so on and so forth. I feel about the chemtrails anyway. I'm very skeptical about chemtrails. I didn't really get a chance to answer before in regards to it because I've been doing a lot of research actually into Lyme and Morgellons, which they say comes from chemtrails. I think they say more and more Morgellons comes from chemtrails. In actuality, Morgellons is like a mutation of Lyme disease. And I feel that it's also autoimmune disease. And I don't see where chemtrails have any relevance. So I'm that's one thing I'm very still skeptical on. Everything else I'm really open-minded to. I don't know why I'm so skeptical of it, but I was doing research and I feel that Morgellons and Lyme disease, both itself are not from chemtrails. They are both autoimmune diseases based on symptoms. So I'm just letting you know. That's my answer to that. So,
Everett,
I think Trump is smarter than a lot of people give him credit for, and I think that if he had a business interest in a chemical company involved in this, he would not do it. But I also think, and I'll put my conspiracy theorist hat on, I think that there is a large portion of the government that is going to try and keep as much information from Trump as they can just because of the way he is. So if he did happen to find out about it, I would imagine that it would be he would release it in some form of tweet, and it would be immediately discredited by whatever agency could do it, whether it be the CIA or NSA. But I think that he would be kept in the dark about it.
Well, for lack of their trust of him, for one, it goes back to the alien question. Would they tell Trump? Probably not, because I think Trump would be the president that would come out and he'd tweet about it. And I think it goes in line with his own cabinet recently was told, wasn't it the other night we were talking about it, that his scientists were told to stop talking.
Well, almost every agency of the government is setting up an alternate Twitter account or alternate social media accounts because he is kind of shutting things down.
Mm-hmm. So why would his scientists be told to stop talking? They're trying to shut off the government, and maybe it's his cabinet that's going against him that is telling their people to shut down because he is talking too much.
He may be talking too much, but the information that was generally released by all these other agencies isn't the typical information that a president releases. A lot of these agencies just release mundane updates or schedules or, papers that people in that agency have had published. It's not the typical stuff a president would talk about.
Right.
Let's move on here. Keep things rolling. Everett, let's get to your next question.
Okay. Do you think that with all these online churches and people becoming ordained kind of as a joke, it affects religion and religious studies in a way that people are doing things that they're not properly trained for in whatever beliefs they follow?
I agree with that. I totally agree with that.
I do too. And having a quote-unquote online church with Forest Moon Grove, I think it also depends on what your motive is, and I think it depends on what you're doing. In our case, with what we do a lot of community action type work. We're a homeless closet. We're troop support, things like that. When it comes to some of these online churches, though, I believe if they are convincing everyone to believe as they do, when it comes to brainwashing people, when it comes to things of that nature, I think it's too easy to be ordained. I'm ordained through Universal Life Church. It's free. It's legal. Anybody can do it. You go from there and you have to spend money, but if you get your nonprofit status, you are a legal church. Anyone can do it. And again, I think it depends on what your motivation is and what your control of people is. Do you actually do something that benefits the community, or do you have a bunch of sheeple that just believe every word you say?
I think it's too easy to get any type of certificate now.
It is.
I mean, the biggest joke when it comes to the paranormal is how many people are certified demonologists.
You can get that through some of these online churches now. I think that was kind of my point, that these churches offer counseling. Well, these internet churches offer things like, how to be a pastoral counselor, and then they encourage their ordained ministers to go out and begin to charge for readings and cleansings and all these different services that they may not really be trained to do.
I think that is where your state needs to step in and require state certification before you can actually do, like counseling, for example. If it's something that's going to affect someone to go to suicide or someone to get depressed or things like that, where it needs to be a state-certified counselor versus some crackerjack person, I think that's where people need to be held accountable.
We kind of had something like that here in the Midwest, and it went up, I can't remember which state court it was, but it became a freedom of religion argument that as a pastoral counselor, they're not offering medical advice, they're not offering mental health advice, they're offering religious advice. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to regulate one religion or one type of religion and the things that they can do, you kind of have to put it all across the board to every religion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I believe that it is out there on a money-making scale and on an actual people-helping scale. It's the same thing if you're a doctor, but you got your degree from the University of Phoenix or Compu College.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think it's just something that's a little bit ridiculous in regards to that. But I know we got a ton more questions here to come out. Eric Markham, let's hit you up for a question.
Okay. Let's say that all of our ghost work and all this has just been kind of self-delusional. Okay, I'm going to put this out there. This isn't what I believe, but let's say again, we have incontrovertible proof beyond a shadow of a doubt. And I mean, this is something that you have to put yourself in this position. All you thought you knew has been proven in your heart of hearts to be wrong. There is no life after death. There is no judgment. There is, you just oblivion. There is nothing after life. How do you live your life at that point? I, for one, am going to have I think I would just go off the deep end, do anything I felt like, because there was no consequences. And I don't mean like false prophet or anything like that. I mean, it is proven absolutely that you're born, you live, you die. There's nothing else.
Oh, God. You know what? I'm going to tell you something right now. You just gave me an absolute night filled of nightmares. And I'll tell you why. My biggest, as I said earlier with my anxiety that I have, the one anxious question that I have that has kept me up at night, that has literally sent me running, screaming down the road, is that question. And just even the thought of bringing that up is absolutely setting my anxiety off.
Well, just think of this. I mean, you won't know that oblivion means you don't wake up and go, well, damn, I'm oblivious.
No, I understand that.
You won't know that that's the case.
I understand that.
Okay.
I understand that. And that's what scares me. That's what scares me, and that's what keeps me up at night. And I'm going to be honest with you. I can't even like, I can feel my anxiety building and my stomach starting to turn right now, because this topic freaks me out so badly, more so than the book Communion that I've never finished. Okay, and Char, it's not a negative question. Okay, it's just a hypothetical question. We don't know. Okay, so let's not take it personally over our religious beliefs. Okay, thank you.
No, this has nothing to do with religion. I mean, this is just, if you look at the vast majority of this world, people have spiritual beliefs, religious beliefs. My question is, and I mean, most people take that for granted. Even atheism is a belief, is a form of belief. You're denying, your religion is the denial of religion, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, you find out that
it's a good question.
None of it, I'm not trying to be anti-religious. I'm a spiritual and semi-religious person. So, Char, I just want people to think outside of the comfort of their habitual, their habitual perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It's a deep question because it has more ramifications than just on a particular person. If it's proven without a doubt, that there are ramifications across all of society.
Yeah, I mean, do you still live what's considered a good moral life? I mean, you look at children that are basically innocent children have a concept of right from wrong. I mean, it's already in our, it's ingrained in our genetics somehow. There's this good,
I know.
Kids that do bad know they know what they're doing. They're going to do it anyway, but they know they shouldn't. So we take away all the framework of a reward after this life. What happens?
Joey, your answer.
Well, I would probably be just as scared as you, Dave. Honestly, tell you the truth. So, there's really not much more to elaborate on that. I'd probably be scared shitless. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, we can't swear on the show anymore because we're going terrestrial.
Okay.
You goaded out your mouth there.
Yes. Yes.
Cooper.
Get out the bar of Lifebuoy soap.
This is where you answer, Coop, when we say Cooper.
Okay, I'm sorry, Markham was talking at the same time you were. Okay, so there's absolutely nothing after life. I'm with Markham. I'm going to live life differently in that regard. I'm going to live life like it doesn't matter anymore. My belief is in reincarnation. And that's that we come back and live life over and over again. And if that wasn't the case, then what the heck? What am I living for? I got nothing more to learn on that regard.
James,
so, yeah.
James, final word.
Yeah, it's I would be hanging on to every breath, every moment, every feeling, and if you get near the end of life, I would just shut everything down and lock the doors and go traveling, because there's no way I'd want to leave this world knowing that this is my last shot at it, and without seeing everything there is to be seen and experience everything there is to experience.
Good answer.
Wow, right. James just brought something home with this question.
That's almost a Leonard Cohen type of answer there.
Like how you're supposed to live your life anyway.
It's easy to think about this and hypothesize about it when you're middle-aged or young, but how do you look at this question when you're 75 or 80?
Well, I know from personal experience with my father, he just wants it to be, he's in poor health and he's outlived most of his friends, and if it weren't for my mother wanting him to still be around, he would have probably put a bullet in his head some time ago. It's no fun being old, apparently. And I just...
Tell that to Hugh Hefner.
Well, Hugh Hefner, yeah.
Tell that to Hugh Hefner. All right, let's move on to another question here, guys, because we still got a bunch to get through before. All right, let's get over to Eric Cooper. Your question.
Okay, I'm going to ask my fun one. What is your favorite supernatural TV series? Not paranormal, but fiction.
Scooby-Doo.
That is a good one.
No, that is.
It was Johnny Quest, actually, but that's a whole other one.
Venture Brothers. Okay, for me, it would have to be Fringe. Yeah, there's a lot of cool cartoons. There was a series called Fringe that had the guy that was in Lord of the Rings, John Noble, played this. They called it Fringe because they would do like science that was on the far edge of things, and it was kind of plausible. That was my favorite series. It was like X-Files meets, I don't know, Ghostbusters or something. I mean, it was a very entertaining show, and John Noble played this, they got him out of a mental institution in the show. They got his character out of a mental institution in order to solve a problem. And he would just come up with this, be real serious, and then just all of a sudden have this, I think I just peed myself moment, and then go back into the... If you've never seen the series Fringe, give it a watch, because I think it was one of the most entertaining and intelligently written series to come along in a long time.
Joey, besides Sesame Street and the Electric Company...
No. All right, anyway, I like Supernatural. I'm a big Supernatural fan.
You'll have to drop by. They film it down the road here.
Oh, no kidding.
Cool.
That's true.
I'm going to throw in Torchwood. I mentioned that a couple days ago when we were doing Third Hour, but I'm impressed with Torchwood. It's a knockoff of Doctor Who. It's a BBC series. There's a spin-off of Doctor Who. And
It was very
believe it
good.
or not, my 5-year-old turned me on to that show. Who, of course, his papa got him turned on to it. But yeah, I'm kind of impressed with Torchwood. I mean, they cover everything from fairies to aliens to time travel to kind of a cool show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was sorry to see that one go.
Everett.
Yeah.
Where's Everett?
I think I'm gonna have to stick with the old standby of the X-Files. It was just such a variety of different things. Plus, it was one of the earlier ones. Kind of came on when I was hitting my stride in the paranormal field. But today, a lot of the new stuff, I just don't watch that much of it. I'm, at the end of the day, so burned out with chasing down different paranormal things or work that I don't watch a lot of the new stuff. So I think probably I would have to stick with the X-Files.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been my favorite if Fringe hadn't come along.
James,
Fringe was X-Files, kicked up a notch.
James, you're up.
Yeah, I've been kind of doing the Netflix thing. One of the ones I'm watching right now is Sense8, I think it is. It was really hard to get into. The first 3 episodes are bizarre. There are 8 people who are sensitive and have connected from all over the world and kind of intermingle with each other's bodies. And it's got the most interesting cast. Again, being a Netflix film or a series, but man, oh man, this is you've got, say, a gay couple, you've got a trans woman with a girlfriend, you've got a policeman, you've got a DJ, and a guy in Nairobi who drives a bus, and a lady in India. And a jewel thief. It's the most amazing group of bizarre characters, and they're all connected. They're all sensitive, and the lobes in their brains, I think, in one of them anyway, they found it's growing together, and they're out to lobotomize the government, because I think there is some kind of connection with them all that the government's trying to keep from happening. So that's the one that I'm kind of hooked on now.
I remember growing up in the 80s to V. I loved V.
Oh, that scared the heck out of me.
I didn't quite understand, because back then my bedtime was at 9 o'clock, and V didn't come on until 9, and I would always try and stretch it out, but I would always catch like a Friday or a Saturday episode, when I could as a kid, and I loved it. Or in summertime when it was on, and my parents would let me stay up a little bit later, that I would actually watch it, and I never really got to the bad stuff, because I was only allowed to watch the first little bit of it before I got called to bed. And trust me, when Mama SOR actually used to yell about it's time for bed, it was time for bed. Otherwise the old wooden spoon came out. I realize that's not very politically correct these days, but that was the law of the land, and you had to obey Mom, right? So
now they're aluminum.
Yeah, exactly. But I remember V, and it was just so weird to me back then. Yet, if you look at it, how accurate is it compared to what we are talking about today? It's kind of weird. We only got about
It is weird.
Guys, we only got about 5 minutes left. I think all of you asked 2 questions, right? Have all of you got your 2 questions?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I asked 2.
I'm going to get my final question in here for the night, and it regards contactees. If you were to sit with a contactee who's a first-time contactee, not someone who has gone through the gamut and been a multiple experience or anything, but a person who has been just realized for the first time that they have been contacted. James, what advice would you give them in order to help them up?
Well, I'm going through that right now. with a young lady I met on the day I bought my motorcycle. And I've connected her with a number of Facebook closed groups, and I've advised her to firstly just go through and read the questions that other people have asked and see if they resonate with her, and get an idea of what's been going on in her life. As well as I kind of informed her that most likely her daughter, one of her daughters for sure, has may not have been abducted, but may be going through the same type of visions and things. And from there, once she's getting comfortable with that, now you got to remember this person's like right out of the blue. If you look at her though, she has a very unique look. If she walked through a crowd, you'd look at her and go, "My gosh, that person is different from everybody else around her," which is why she's a very, very beautiful model. But you look at her and you know...
Hold on, the beautiful model, are you talking your new motorcycle or are you talking her?
The young lady.
Okay.
You weasel. Anyway, from there we'll get into introducing her to people who have had that kind of experience in person and have them chat. Now, one of the girls on the Canadian Paranormal Society, she started a meetup group here in Vancouver, British Columbia, for people who are interested in this type of thing, in UFOs. So that would be another way that people with similar circumstances can get together and basically realize they're not crazy and they're not alone. And that's one of the big things. A lot of people keep it inside because they think, well, they're nuts.
Yeah.
And they're not.
James, do me a favor. If your friend needs to chat, you know how to get a hold of me.
Yeah, you're the last person I would send a very attractive model to go chat with, Dave. Okay?
Yes, I'm officially a threat. I am officially a threat. All right.
That flap echo.
Yes. All right. We only got a couple minutes left, so I'm gonna hit up a couple of you on this one. Cooper, 30 seconds.
Yeah, definitely. If I had a new contactee, I would first thing tell them start their dream journal, like I tell all the contactees I run into. With daytime, very good description of what they dreamt about, because dreams always come through with contact. And one of the projects I'm working on for this year is getting a list of resources for group sessions, peer-supported group sessions. And that'd be one of the other venues that I would send a first-time contacted to, so I can talk to people that are going through the same experiences as they are. Mm-hmm. And that's probably the two biggest things I'd say within 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Everett?
I would tell them to reach out, not just to Facebook groups, but try and find a group or somebody else who's going through the same thing, because you can't dismiss the importance of, not to make a pun, but of human contact, of being with somebody in person that is going through the same thing. You know, that can't replicate completely what you can get in a group or something online. So I would tell them to reach out.
Excellent. And on that note, we only have time for one more. And Markham, you get the final say.
Well, I think my approach would be same as in medicine. First, do no harm. Not having had the experience myself, and I've often wondered what I would do if I had that experience. I think the main thing I would do is just say, hey, you're not alone, you're not crazy, or if you are, you've got lots of company.
That you do. That you definitely do. Goat Man! Where are you, Goat Man?
I'm here, Dave. I'm here. Yeah, 2 seconds. I got what? How many seconds I got, Dave?
You know, you just wasted them, buddy. Thank you so much.
No. Wait. No. All right, here it is. The answer is tell your story. Never hold your story in. That's what I would tell their first experiencer, because when it comes down to it, everybody has a story. Get out there and tell your story.
Right. Perfect. Great answer. I want to thank everyone on our panel: Everett Thiemer, Eric Cooper, Eric Markham, James Tyson, and the Goat Man himself, Joseph Francis Aquilino. That's the round table for the month. We also want to congratulate Richard Motko for being the SOR Space Traveler of the Month. Appreciate you all tuning in. Don't forget, we do this thing 7 days a week. Spaced Out Weekend with James Tyson and Elizabeth Anglin come at you the next 2 nights, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. I highly suggest you tune it on in, because that's what we do on the weekend. I'm going to take my bag that's right beside me. I'm going to put it on. I'm going to start my walk, my trek up into the mountains of British Columbia. Maybe find a Wi-Fi signal so I can catch the weekend show at spacedoutradio.com. Appreciate all of you tuning in. Appreciate our panel. Remember, do us a favor. Tell a friend. That's how we're growing this bigger and better than the rest of the kids out there. Hop on for the ride. Tell your friends to as well. We continue to rock and roll on this. So, thank you so much for being here this week. Next week, I'm in Monday. Butch Witkowski is back. Yes, strange days indeed, with our man Butch on Monday, the final Monday of every month. We got a power week next week. Make sure you join us with it. Have a good one. Good night.